In the spring of 2018, it was my last semester in high school. To be honest, it wasn't a semester I took too seriously. I didn't really care about my grades, and often skipped school with a couple of friends. If I remember correctly, it was a Friday when all of this happened. Once again, I had plans to skip one of my classes, this time with two of my friends, named Ethan and Logan. We were going to meet up behind the school and then head to a nearby McDonald's. There were usually a few administrators and security guards around the school, so to avoid them, we decided to take a nature trail that led through a forest behind the school. Sure, it meant walking farther, but in our minds, it was better than being caught. We hadn't even been walking for 5 minutes when we came across a kid I'd never seen before. Normally, I'd have brushed it off as just another student skipping, but this time, something felt off. The kid was wearing jeans and a white t-shirt, both of which were covered in dirt. They were stained green and brown, especially on the knees of his jeans. His hair was full of leaves and dirt. It looked like he'd been rolling around on the ground. As we got closer, Logan recognized him as one of the freshmen and started a conversation with him. I quickly noticed how out of breath and nervous the kid seemed. He kept glancing at me and Ethan, almost suspiciously. Logan asked him why he was out here and why his clothes were so dirty. The kid answered that he had been skipping the whole school day, but that didn't explain why he was so filthy. Ethan then joked that it looked like the kid had been camping in the woods. We all laughed, except for the kid. He just stood there, staring at us with a near-angry expression. He then started looking around before turning back to us and saying, "Hey, do you guys want to see something?" We hesitated, but we agreed. That's when the kid lifted his shirt to reveal a handgun tucked into his waistband. We all instinctively stepped back. At that moment, I felt a real sense of danger. This was the first time in my life I had seen a real gun in person. Then, Ethan spoke up, saying, "What are you doing, man? Where did you get that?" The kid pointed down the trail behind him and explained that he had found it there. Ethan told him he should just ditch it and get out of there, but I wasn't prepared for what the kid said next. "I don't think you guys understand. I'm about to get into a lot of trouble," he said. There was something about the way he said it that sent a chill down my spine. Logan, Ethan, and I all looked at each other. We didn't need to say anything. We all knew exactly what we had to do. Without warning, the three of us turned and ran as fast as we could, off the trail and into the forest. We ran through the dense trees for about 5 minutes until we reached the school parking lot. I'll never forget the sight we were met with. There were police cars everywhere. We were panting, sweating, and terrified. None of us knew what was going on. So in the midst of the chaos, we each ran home as fast as we could. Later, we learned more about what actually happened. Apparently, the kid was a freshman and had been skipping the entire day. It turns out he had stolen the gun from a car parked in a nearby lot. He then made a post online threatening the school. I'm not sure what platform he used. I never saw it myself, but from what I've heard, the post was disturbing and graphic. Some students saw the post and reported it to the faculty. The school immediately went into lockdown, and the police were notified about the threat. That's how so many of them showed up in the parking lot so quickly. The kid was later spotted coming out of the nature trail and walking toward the school, where he was arrested. A lot of people said the kid hadn't been taking his medication for about a week, and that's what led to his actions. But I honestly don't know. It could just be rumors. Ethan, Logan. And I never told anyone that we had encountered the kid. We all agreed we didn't want to get involved. Looking back now, knowing what I do about the kid and the threats he made, we were all in serious danger. At the same time, though, part of me feels like we delayed him. Who knows if this school could have responded quickly enough had we not slowed him down. Still, it's an experience I wish I never had to go through. If you are here for the first time, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell to stay updated with our upcoming scary stories. We need your support. Please share these stories with your friends and family. In the final year of my high school studies, I had a friend named Adam, and we went through a terrifying experience together. His parents were out of town, and they had a relatively large house, so we decided to throw a party over the weekend. The party wasn't wild, just 40 or 50 people from our class. Adam was my best friend, and he was also my neighbor. I lived in a house nearby, so I helped him set things up and made sure there was nothing breakable in open areas. We also blocked off the stairs leading to the upper floors so that guests wouldn't go beyond the main floor and basement. Everyone arrived around the same time, and the party began. It was a fun party with music and dancing in the basement and games like Mario Kart and other activities upstairs. As time went on, I felt an urgent need to use the bathroom. The bathroom on the main floor and the one in the basement were both occupied, so I decided to go outside to the garden, despite the freezing cold. While I was out there near a tree, I turned to the house and saw a beam of light suddenly flash in the third-floor window. After I finished, I didn't see the light again, but I stared intently at the windows, and there was someone moving inside. I went back inside and told Adam about it. He told me that no one was upstairs because his parents were away, and he didn't have any siblings. Adam figured that one of the guests might have sneaked upstairs even though we had put up a sign warning against going up to the upper floors. I suggested we go together to check it out, so we climbed the stairs to see if anyone had gone up there. We searched the rooms until we reached his parents' bedroom. When we opened the door, we found a man standing in front of the wardrobe, rummaging through the drawers. His face was covered, so we couldn't recognize him. When he sensed our presence, he quickly turned around and raised a gun at us. In shock, we immediately raised our hands and said, "Don't shoot." Without saying a word, he gestured for us to back away from the door, then exited the room. As he passed by us, he struck Adam in the face with the gun, before quickly running down the stairs and out the door. We all watched in disbelief as he ran through the living room to the front door, then into the street, disappearing into the darkness. Looking back now, it would have been better for us to call the police, but at that time, we were just young people at a party, and there were underage guests drinking alcohol, and we didn't want to get into trouble over it. Fortunately, Adam's face recovered from the blow, but we needed more time to recover from the psychological shock of being threatened with death by someone we thought was a thief, although we were never sure of the real reason behind his actions. In a remote town in Alabama, there stood an old school called Haas School, a building filled with stories and mysterious secrets. The school was established in the early 20th century on land that had once been a deserted mental hospital, where bizarre medical experiments were conducted on patients suffering from unusual mental illnesses. Over time, the place became even more mysterious, and students and locals began to spread tales about the spirits that lived within its walls, speaking of strange noises, eerie visions, and unexplainable events. In 1987, Jenny, a new student, arrived at Haas's school for her senior year. Jenny was a quiet and solitary girl who had come from another city, hoping for a fresh start away from her past. From the first day, Jenny felt something strange in the school. The walls were old, the hallways narrow, and when she walked through its corridors, there was a strange sense of discomfort, as if the place was watching her. The students spoke of the noises from the upper floor, strange sounds like whispers or muffled screams, said to come from the forbidden part of the school. At first, Jenny dismissed these stories as just myths students told to scare each other. But after a few days, she began noticing odd things. She heard those eerie sounds when she was alone in the hallways after school hours, and they became louder at night. The sounds were unclear, like moans or as though someone was whispering her name. They seemed to be coming from the upper floor, a floor that had been locked for years, but some students spoke of it as the forbidden area, where students had mysteriously vanished in the past. One night, after school hours, Jenny decided to investigate the source of these sounds herself. She snuck into the upper floor, where the door had been closed for years. The door was old and worn down by time, but something urged Jenny to open it. Finally, she managed to open the door slowly, and the hallway was pitch dark, every step echoing eerily in the oppressive air. She walked toward a room said to have been used for medical experiments in the past, where strange procedures were carried out on patients. As Jenny entered the room, it was filled with dust and cobwebs, and everything was coated in a heavy silence. In the corner of the room, there was an old wooden box, filled with neglected files and notebooks. Her heart was racing as she approached the box, and when she opened it, she discovered something terrifying. Inside, there were a series of old notebooks written by hand, mostly dated from the 1950s and 1960s. These notebooks detailed horrific experiments conducted on students at the school in the past. The experiments had been overseen by strange doctors, and their goal was to understand how to control human minds. Jenny read one of the notebooks aloud, and she uncovered that students who had undergone these experiments had suddenly disappeared, some of them suffering from bizarre mental conditions, while others simply vanished without a trace. But what disturbed Jenny the most was that the experiments weren't just scientific trials. They involved manipulating minds and spirits. Jenny found references to the screams from the upper floor, and the notebooks warned that anyone who heard these sounds would share the same fate as the students who had disappeared. As Jenny continued reading, she began to feel an overwhelming presence around her. The room suddenly grew colder, and the air felt thick, as though something invisible was watching her. When she looked into an old mirror mounted on the wall, she was startled to see another figure reflected behind her, a shadowy form staring at her. But when she turned around, no one was there. A cold shiver ran down her spine, and she felt a deep sense of dread. It was as if she could no longer breathe. Her feet felt frozen to the ground. The next day, Jenny started noticing something strange about her classmates. Some of them were acting unusually, while others began disappearing at odd times. Many strange incidents occurred, lights flickering suddenly, doors opening and closing by themselves. Students began to realize that something was wrong. Some felt a heavy presence following them in the dark, as though there was an unseen entity in the school. Unable to resist her curiosity, Jenny decided to return to the upper floor one more night to uncover the full truth. As she entered the old room again, the sounds had become more intense. Muffled screams and whispers filled the air, growing louder and closer. Suddenly, a dark figure appeared before her, and the voices seemed to come from within her own mind, as if the spirits were speaking through her. These were the souls of the students who had disappeared in the past, and they roamed the halls, searching for someone else to torment. At that moment, Jenny vanished. No one ever heard from her again. The school closed its doors, but the legend of the screams from the upper floor lived on in the minds of the locals. It was said that the spirits of those who had suffered through the experiments still lingered, seeking vengeance on anyone who dared enter the cursed school. Over time, the old building became more isolated, but the story still lingered. If you hear strange noises at night, don't go near it, for they will find you.